Alzheimer's disease, one of the most famous and major causes of death around the world. I'm sure every single one of you knows what is Alzheimer. It's a disease that mainly causes memory impairment, causes you to forget things, causes you to have cognitive problems such as not remembering how things work, the inability to remember yourself. When you look at yourself in the mirror, for example, you won't be able to remember that this is even your face, your shape, your body. You won't be able to remember the people around you or your close friends, your family. It does affect your brain in a very severe way. And today we're going to explain how this disease happens inside your brain. What are the physiological causes that cause this disease to happen inside your brain? Because it's mainly a neurological disorder, or let's say a neurodegenerative disorder that happens. Neurodegenerative means that it is caused by the degeneration of the neurons of your nervous system, especially the neurons inside the brain. And we're going to explain that in mainly a summarized way, but it's going to make you understand all the mechanisms or all the causes that could lead to Alzheimer's disease. So this is Kenji, and without further ado, let's get started. So first of all, we need first to know in which parts of the brain the neurons that get damaged do cause Alzheimer's disease. We mainly have two main parts inside the brain that the neurons degeneration inside them cause Alzheimer. These two parts, the first one of them is the cerebral cortex. And if you don't know what is the cerebral cortex, it's mainly, these convolutions that are found in the outer part or the outer layer of the brain. Oops. Like these parts that do have convolutions like this and this and this and this and that. These parts of the brain are called the cerebral cortex, which is the outer layer of the brain. This is the cerebral cortex. It does have neurons, and the degeneration of the neurons inside the cerebral cortex is one of the reasons that cause Alzheimer's disease. And there's another region that the neuron degeneration inside this region causes Alzheimer's disease. And this part is found deep inside the brain. It's called the hippocampus. And hippocampus is one of the parts of something called the limbic system. And the limbic system, if you don't know, is something that's responsible inside your brain for your behaviors and emotions. Which is something that explains why people who have Alzheimer's disease do have problems with their emotions. They may have severe aggression or severe depression when they have Alzheimer. That's because the hippocampus is part of the limbic system that controls your behaviors and emotions. So these two parts are the two main parts inside your brain that get affected, or the neurons inside them get degenerated, which causes Alzheimer's disease. What we're going to explain right now is we're going to explain three mechanisms that cause this degeneration of the neurons. The first one of them is called the beta-amyloid accumulation. We need first to give an introduction that will get us to understand what does the beta-amyloid accumulation inside your brain means. Inside our bodies, we do have chromosomes. 23 chromosomes, pairs of chromosomes to be more specific. So, the chromosome number 21 and the chromosome number 40 and the chromosome number 1 are of our interest regarding the explanation of the beta-amyloid protein accumulation. The chromosome number 21 has a gene inside it that's called the APP, which is an abbreviation for amyloid precursor protein. This amyloid precursor protein is mainly important for the enhancement of the neurotransmission of the nerve impulse inside your neurons. The nerve impulse that is generated inside a nerve needs to be transmitted from a neuron to another neuron in order for you to get a specific neurological response, like moving your hands, for example. This is all of your movements, all of your thinking, everything is a nerve impulse getting transmitted from one neuron to another neuron. So the APP is responsible for the enhancement of this neurotransmission process. And when this APP, which is the amyloid precursor protein, finishes its job and the brain wants to create newer ones, it gets degenerated into soluble substances. And what degenerates it and gets it to be changed into these soluble substances are enzymes that are mainly created by genes inside the chromosome number 14 and chromosome number 1. Enzymes are called the beta secretase and gamma secretase. Okay, so these three are working with each other. This one to enhance the neurotransmission process, and these two to, when this finishes its job, to make it degenerate it into soluble substances that will not accumulate inside the brain, to get rid of it safely for the brain. So it's some form of homeostasis, some form of balance inside your brain that keeps everything working fine. I think you can now guess where the problem would come from. If a mutation happens here, or here, or here, that will lead to not forming the soluble parts that are formed from the degradation or the normal degradation of this, which means that the parts that are going to be formed after the APP finishes its job, or even if the APP itself is the one that is mutated, it's not going to be degraded into the soluble substances that are safe for the brain. No, it's going to be degraded after it finishes its job to a non-soluble substance or a non-soluble protein inside the brain that will accumulate on the nerve endings, which will affect the neurotransmission of the nerve impulse from one neuron to the other. And this accumulation that is resulted from the mutation of one of these three things is called beta-amyloid. Bingo. So the accumulation of this beta-amyloid is one of the reasons that might cause Alzheimer, because this causes neurodegeneration. When you have something that's non-soluble, that's accumulated, something like a waxy substance that's accumulated on the nerve endings, preventing the neuron transmission of the nerve impulse from one neuron to the other, this will cause a big problem to the neurons inside your brain. So beta-amyloid is a reason that causes Alzheimer, and you know now how it's accumulated. Also, when beta-amyloid is accumulated, like a waxy substance that is mainly foreign to your immune system, this activates your immune system. And when your immune system is activated, this causes the increasing of a secretion of an excitatory neurotransmitter. If you don't know what is the meaning of a neurotransmitter is a chemical substance that is found at the end of each nerve. When the nerve impulse gets to the nerve ending, this chemical substance gets secreted from the nerve ending into something called the synapse. And if you don't know what synapse is, it's the space between the nerve ending and the start of the other neuron that you want the nerve impulse to be transmitted to. The secretion of these neurotransmitters or the chemical substance is the main thing that causes the neuron or the nerve impulse to be transmitted from one neuron to the other. So when we have something that's called an excitatory neurotransmitter, excitatory means that its secretion, the increase in its secretion, will lead to more nerve impulses, will lead to the excitation of your nervous system. So this, when the beta-amyloid is formed or accumulated, this activates the immune system because it's identified as a foreign substance for your body. So the immune system increases something called glutamate, which is, as we said, an excitatory neurotransmitter. I'm going to write that for you as well. excitatory neurotransmitter. It actually causes the excitation or the excitation of the nervous system by opening the calcium channels. Let's say that it increases the intake of calcium through calcium channels, which causes the increase of the free radicals. Free radicals, if you don't know, are bad for your neurons, bad for your nervous system. Their increase actually leads to the degeneration of neurons. But in people who are smaller or younger in age, they have antioxidants. These antioxidants actually neutralize these free radicals, so you don't face neurodegeneration from them if you're a young person. Usually elderly people are the ones that do not have enough antioxidants to neutralize the effect of free radicals. So this causes them to have neurodegeneration in these areas, the cerebral cortex or the hippocampus, that causes Alzheimer. So this will be harmful, especially for elderly people. Let's just write it near here. All right, so you now know that what is the first mechanism that leads to neurodegeneration, which is the accumulation of something called beta-amyloid on the nerve endings. And you know now how it's accumulated and from where it comes. The second thing is something this is something that we can say it's extracellular. Why extracellular? Because it doesn't happen in the nerve cell itself. It happens on the nerve endings, on the outer surface. It accumulates on the nerve endings of the neurons where they connect with each other. So it causes the nerve impulse to not be transmitted in a correct way, which leads to neurodegeneration. So it's something extracellular. We're now going to talk about the second mechanism that could lead to the neurodegeneration, which is the tau protein. This is intracellular. How is this intracellular? I'm going to explain that to you right now. Let's first write the nerve cell or the neuron, draw it, just to make it more clear. Let's use a different color. And this is going to be, okay, that's cool. All right. And we have that, the cell body. Okay. This is a neuron. One second, let's write it. This is a neuron. This part of the neuron is called the axon. The axon, to be compacted and to be looking in this way, compact and holding itself like that, there are some proteins on its surface that leads to the axon to be compact and holding itself. These proteins, you've guessed it already, are called tau proteins. I'm gonna draw them in, let's say, red. Like they're proteins that are found here. Nah, red is going to be a bad color for this. Let's say this, found here, found here, found here, found here, found here, found here. You know, they're like something like concrete, you know, that makes the building compact and makes it hold itself. This is literally tau protein. So this is tau protein. So this is something that makes the axon, which is an important part of the neuron, compact, which makes the nerve impulse transmission from one neuron to the other a normal process. So if there's a problem that happens to the tau protein that makes it not able to make the axon of the neuron compact, or the tau proteins, for example, get accumulated on themselves outside the axon, this will lead to the axon of the neuron to be messy, like to be something like that, not compact and looking like that, literally looking like that. So this will lead to neurodegeneration. This is neurodegeneration. So the second reason that might cause neurodegeneration in the cerebral cortex and the hippocampus that will lead to Alzheimer is the tau protein not being able to make the axon of the nerve cell compact, so makes the neuron literally unfunctional. When a neuron is looking like that, it's not able to transmit the nerve impulse, so it cannot function properly. So this causes neurodegeneration. And the third reason is a neurochemical degradation. Neurochemical degradation is mainly related to neurotransmitters. And you now know what is a neurotransmitter. We explained it. Related to neurotransmitters. The neurotransmitters that are found inside the cerebral cortex and the hippocampus are cholinergic neurotransmitters. And cholinergic from something called acetylcholine, which is a neurotransmitter, one of the neurotransmitters that are found inside the brain. So when you have a deficiency in acetylcholine, when you have deficiency in it, that will lead to neurodegeneration because you're not able to transfer the nerve impulse. Neurodegeneration. I cannot write degeneration right now. All right. You're not going to be able to transfer the nerve impulse from one neuron to the other. So acetylcholine is a neurotransmitter that its deficiency will lead to the neurodegeneration inside the cerebral cortex and the hippocampus. And actually, the increase of glutamate, which we said that is also a neurotransmitter, the increase of glutamate, as we explained here, will lead to opening the calcium channels, which will increase the free radicals, which is harmful and causes neurodegeneration, will also lead to Alzheimer. So the deficiency of acetylcholine or the increase of glutamate will lead to the same thing. So these are mainly the reasons that cause Alzheimer's disease physiologically. I hope you understood them well. And if you have any question regarding any of these things, please ask me in the comment. And if you have any feedback regarding the videos, I'll also be happy to hear them in the comments. And this was Kenji, and thank you for watching the video, and have a great day.